Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to your favorite show, The Lounge, a welcoming space for couples.
Yes.
My name is Dr. Vicky Omifolaji, and with me is
Dr. Stephen Omifolaji.
So tonight we have a great topic to discuss.
Yes.
As you know, we are all about things to do with relationships and creating wealth. So tonight, what are we delving into?
Yes, tonight we are actually talking about how to improve our relationships and with the specific point of how to have a difference of opinion in a relationship and yet avoid arguments, avoid finger pointing. So we're going to be talking on how differences, though inevitable in the relationship, but how can we have that difference without necessarily leading to finger pointing, without necessarily leading to unnecessary argument. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And together, we're going to explore this and see how we move forward. So, Vicky?
It's when we have more than two people, even from two people upwards.
Two people upwards, yes.
There's bound to be arguments.
Yes.
There's bound to be difference of opinion.
Yes.
But when that happens,
Yes.
how to avoid finger pointing is what we'll be focusing on. That, oh, it's your fault. It's your fault. You made this happen. You made me do this. You did this. If it's not because of you, we won't be in this situation. That is finger pointing. And when we do finger pointing in relationships, it opens doors for many, many other negative things. Like the other person that you're blaming will start trying to defend himself or herself. And then it leads to something else, and that leads to another thing. And before you know it, a little thing that could have been resolved easily can become a big, big thing.
Exactly.
A big rift.
Yes.
That sometimes may actually lead to divorce.
Yes.
And some people will be asking, why you guys always like this? What is going on? Maybe some couples even find it difficult to go back to what caused it. Something little. So we are focusing our energy today, or this session today, on avoiding finger pointing despite argument. Because argument is inevitable. It's bound to happen no matter what. We argue. We have different opinions. We are not the same. So stuff happens. But how do we now not move forward with blaming, finger pointing? That is our focus today.
Exactly. Yes, you're right. And that's nearly in the head. We can learn, from the Bible. Because the Bible is not just, it's not a religious book. I believe it's a book of, that contains, it's a book of life. It contains principles, it contains example, precedents, it contains strategies that can be used, it contains prophecies, and of course it contains religion as well. But it's not just a book of religion, it's a book, a practical guide to life. And we can learn from a story in the Bible, where in the book of Genesis, I think it's in chapter 16, where because Abraham has been waiting for quite a long time for a child, he was becoming, impatient, and together with his wife, actually Sarah, his wife, with whom they've been married for decades and had no child. And then eventually Sarah suggested and said, well, I've got some maid servants, and maybe I can give one of these maid servants, who are younger girls, to Abraham. And maybe Abraham can have a child, and we can all have a child. In actual fact, she was trying to organize surrogacy. That's what we call it these days. Surrogacy, where somebody else carry, your pregnancy for you, when for one reason or the other, the woman cannot carry the pregnancy or cannot become pregnant. So Sarah was more or less trying to arrange for surrogacy. In any case, to cut the long story short, after Abraham has been with the woman Hagar, they had a boy, and they called his name Ishmael. And unfortunately, after Ishmael was born, in fact, immediately after Hagar became conceived, realizing that she has an edge over her boss. So she started disrespecting Sarah. He started treating Sarah with disrespect and all sort of humiliation, and calling her all sort of names. And eventually Sarah became hungry, and it came to a point where eventually they were just not seen face to face, and she chased her out of the house. though eventually she came back temporarily, but things were still going on. Eventually, Sarah had a child of her own, and that was the final point. I said, now I have my own son. There's no way I'm going to allow this other son of my maid to be the older son for my family. It's not going to be the one, the firstborn that will be calling the shots. My son is the real one, is the genuine one. So what eventually happened is that she started having now difficulty with Abraham. And now, Abraham, with that kind of situation, Abraham will have said, well, why are you having problem with me now? After all, you are the one that said I should be with your maid. You're the one that said I should, that your maid should, sleep with me and have a child because we had no child in the house. Now, why are you not blaming me and all that? The finger pointing could have started from that episode. But we learned from the Bible that Abraham did not do that. What Abraham did was to say, well, look, the maid is yours. You can do whatever you want to do with your maid. It's yours. You brought her to this house. So I only did what you asked me to do. Now that this has happened, there's no need for us to fight. Okay? Do what you want to do. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just go and pray. God to help me in this matter now. Because what am I going to do? And he went to go and pray. And it was a surprise, really to see that actually God asked him. When he was praying to God, God said, well, go and do as your wife said.
Listen to your wife.
And because the reason probably is because before Abraham slept with the maid, he didn't ask God. He didn't ask God, should I do this or not? He just went ahead. My wife told me to do this. Let's go ahead. I'm going to do it. Okay, that's fine. And then when everything fell apart, of course, he now went to God. And that's why God to say, well, you listen to her the first time, did you? Okay, now you have to listen to her now. Okay. To now do whatever she's asking you to do, so as to get peace. So you are the one that set the thing here. Now you're going to set it back. So, and that's what he did. And we learn from eventually the story in the Bible that God looked after that son that was born. God looked after, even though he still maintained the covenant with Isaac, who is the one that was, destined to have the covenant. So what we learn from there is that because there's a problem, there's an issue, doesn't mean that you should go finger pointing. As Vicky was saying, by doing finger pointing, you dig trenches. And when you dig trenches, you are making the enmity to even be worse. And you're going to be firing to each other from there. It's not going to resolve anything at the end of the day. You still have to find a way to work things out. So it's just better to, find a way to go and pray. If an argument is not resolved, go and pray. And God will instruct you on how you're going to deal with the situation. Over to you, Vicky.
Definitely. And I think tonight we've managed to bring out a few points, and not just on our own. We've used a story in the Bible, a biblical example,
yes,
to get the point across.
Yes.
So we just want to advise or suggest, if you have any comment, or if there are things you would like to share, just please comment below or send us an email. Or private message us. We're here to help, we're here to provide support, and also to add value to you.
Yes.
In your relationship, to make it heaven on earth.
Yes, that's it. And that's why we're here. And the other thing about how to avoid even that finger pointing and unnecessary conflict also is to have two attitudes. There are two steps that you can take. The first is to, first of all, be quiet as much as you can. Silence helps a lot. Silence helps to diffuse the situation. The fact that the other person is just over the top and going on and on and on, and the other person is just quiet, it helps actually a lot to quench the fire. It helps a lot to put out the flames, because there's no point. If one is spitting fire, it's better for the other one just to be maybe drilling water. Yeah, and these roles could be reversed from time to time. It's a strategy that couples can learn how to deal with difficult situations. Both of you should not be exploding at the same time. If one is on the exploding side, the other one take quiet. Because eventually, when things cool down, and the other one that's been, hearing everything and all that, begins to make his or her own point, the other person probably want to have a feedback. What exactly did I say that's wrong? So that is when you're going to get an attentive ear now, because you've all the whole time you don't respond at all, and you find appropriate moment to begin to say your own side. The other side is likely to have a more listening ear, because you actually use silence to deal with the situation in the first place. So maintaining silence, that is one of the steps. The second step is also to put yourself in the other person's position. Try and see, why is he reacting that way? Try and just look at things from that person's perspective. You just make that effort. Sometimes the partner may not be necessarily reasonable, because we all have our moments, and we can be angry over some things that are not exactly what we think they are. So, yeah, by putting yourself in the other person's position, you can actually gain some insight, and then be able to use that position to actually now explain yourself and make things much clearer. But in any case, conciliatory approach is always the best, rather than finger point, rather than saying the other person's at fault, because it just doesn't help. That's one of the maladaptations that can happen. We find it in our own relationship to be very helpful. That yes, when one is angry, the other one is cool. Let the person have their own time. You're going to have your own time. Don't worry, you have your own time. And when eventually you have your own time, then you state your own case and make your own point as strongly as you can make it, without, of course, without being violent. But just make your point and make it clear, articulate your point, and the other person is likely to hear you better. Whereas when both of you are talking over each other, but nothing gets in, and it's just going to just spoil things altogether. Those are the two steps we have found useful, and we have practical examples, that I believe you remember.
Yes, I totally remember. And this is it's quite recent, and we had a business, and my husband decided for us to buy another one on top of it. Unfortunately, that business didn't work out at all. And I remember saying to him when when he said we should, I said we have two businesses to buy. Let's just buy one and see how we go. But he said, oh, that one is also good. Let's just buy the two. Unfortunately, not just that one. The one that we initially wanted to buy, both of them didn't work out. And I mean, things really got so bad, but I made it a point not to say it out, not to blame him, because he was feeling bad enough. He kept saying, oh, I put my family in this position. I shouldn't have. And I made it a point not to blame, because it could have gone the other way, So
if the benefit came, we would have both benefited from it.
We would all have benefited from it.
Yes.
So blaming wouldn't have resolved anything at that time. It would have made the situation worse.
Yes.
Because someone that is already feeling guilty or feeling bad, now you are now blaming the person on top of it all. You are making that situation worse. So I knew this, and I intentionally stay away from that point. I made the focus, how do we get out of this?
Exactly.
Through prayer, through talking, through supporting each other through it, through walking through what the solutions can be, steps for us to take.
Yes. And then just as an addition to that, thank God you did that, because that helped to build resilience in me as well, to continue to just plow forward. And you will remember, because we bought these other two businesses, one of them pulled the first business down. So two businesses fell. But you know what? Out of the two businesses that we bought, the other one actually became the rescue one, actually, at the end of the day. The other one of these two businesses we bought, one was really a lemon, okay? But the other one was actually a gem that was coated in coal or in dirt, so that we didn't know. It was actually the second business that actually took off and began now to give us a kind of reward that surpasses the other two businesses put together. So at the end of the day, we were better off. But initially, it was looking disastrous, because that second one pulled the first one down. But the third one, we had not actually put in much effort into that at that time. It was a little bit further away from where we live. We hadn't put any effort into it. We were just dealing with those ones that are closer to home. So when we eventually got to now let the two go, then we move on to the third one, and it just took off really big time. And that's one that's been very rewarding. We can see that because she didn't blame me, because she wasn't really pushing me down and put finger pointing. That helped me to have the resilience to eventually see that there's actually something here, really. We got a gold in here, but it was just covered in debt. And that one began to benefit us. So that is how it can work when you don't put blame first. Don't behave as if you are better than the other side. And that is applicable to us as men. We don't make it appear as if you are better than your wife or than your partner. And the woman should not make it appear as if she's better than a man. In fact, we should just look at what the Bible says and act accordingly to that. The Bible says, husband, love your wife. He said the wife should respect their husband. Because my wife respected me, that was why she wasn't going to be using those abrasive words to bring me down. And I also showed my love towards her by actually caring and understanding and putting myself in her shoes. And that has helped us through that.
Definitely.
Have you anything more to say there?
Yeah. I think we've actually covered the points today.
Yes.
We will appreciate your comment.
Yes.
Your thoughts about this.
Yes.
And let us all just continue to grow our relationship and make it a heaven on earth.
Yes.
Because where two or three are, there He is.
God is.
There God is. So
yes.
let's continue to do our part.
That is it. And like we always say, marriage and relationship is one of those that you get a certificate before you start practicing. As we work on it, we'll get better every day.
Definitely.
Thank you. In time and in between time, remain blessed.
Bye.
Bye. How long do you think that is? And they can give 15 minutes there.
16 minutes.
About the work clock. Let me switch off. Wait.
I hope it works because what I pay you big in here,